Ladies and gentlemen, you've been waiting for it all day, all show.
Yeah, dudes.
Dudes, let me see some dumb laser beams from Fulgore in the chat. Everybody, let's welcome the one, the only, our guest of honor today, the Maximilian.
Hello, I made it.
Max
I'm
is
running.
here.
Everything changes when you have a baby. Oh God.
Yeah, it does.
Hi everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you
it
for waiting.
does.
No, all good. Nobody knew we were waiting, so we did it. We did our jobs
It's good.
as
It's
show
perfect.
hosts. So, Max, right off the bat, I just wanted to check in. Now that you're a family man, you're playing the Guile role. Well, actually, Guile said that to someone. How's that been? How's family man doing? How's daddy doing?
I'd say, I mean, it's been challenging, rewarding, frustrating, beautiful, arduous, entertaining, and also has made me like the happiest I've ever been in my life. So it has been a huge, wide variety of crazy emotions trying to balance like streaming and video content and everything like that. But I feel like honestly, like having a kid has really made me the happiest I've ever been. And it's also given me an opportunity to like prioritize things and try to work a bit smarter. And that included things like hiring an editor to finally edit my YouTube videos after like 13, 14 years of doing it myself or something like that. And yeah, like I think the most amazing thing is watching her learn how to do stuff and not trying to push fighting games or like you have to play the old Nintendo because that's what we did, you know. I'm not really in the same boat of like I'm not going to make my daughter suffer all the things that we had to suffer through. She'll find new and creative ways to deal with all of the modern BS that happens in the world. So yeah, I'm curious to find out what she's going to love and the different things that she's going to like doing, because it's really satisfying. It's really satisfying to watch her learn.
That's it. Sounds like good dad moments all around, huh?
Yeah.
Have you already started playing games with her? Like when I was younger, my first memories were my dad having me in his lap when I was like a toddler, and he would play like Grail or Eve or something. Do you do that with her?
So right now she doesn't. She's taken to the arcade machines a little bit because they got big buttons and stuff like that, and she definitely likes slapping buttons on arcade sticks. She's about she's a year old, so she's like 14 months right now.
She's already a grappler main, smashing buttons.
Yeah, smashing buttons. The thing that gets her the most is honestly on my phone. I don't play a lot of games, but I take a lot of pictures and videos, and she likes scrolling through. She'll actually like figure out like point, and she like throws the video away to like the next one or something like that. And they're pretty much just pictures of like us together. So she's already figured out like kids are crazy, man. They're just sponges. She understands like interactivity of touch screens at 1 year old. And she's already like, she just grabs the phone and goes beep, beep, beep. And she puts it up to her ear. She goes, wah, what? It's so cute. So yes, I'm excited to see what she might be into if she's even into anything.
And I'm sorry to keep going on this topic, but it's something of interest to me because I am engaged and you know, we're starting to have those conversations. I know Sharpie's engaged. Alon is also a person. So what I was wondering, you know, having a child, has that changed your priorities in terms of content creation and what you hope to get out of it, what your goals are?
I think personally, like a lot of the content that I make has not changed. In fact, it's motivated me to do even more things. For example, like we have a very notorious history of cursing like effing sailors, which is weird because I don't really do that off stream. It's a weird stream thing where it's just like you just cut loose for no reason. So that really hasn't changed a lot. It's more the fact that I think a lot of the content I make over the years has changed so much. The thing that I didn't want to happen was I didn't want her to become content. Right? I didn't want to like make a video like my baby plays X-Men versus Street Fighter for the first time. That's like what I distinctly did not want to do. We've had like a funny video where it's like we try her baby food with the rest of your video games, which I thought was pretty funny. But she'll pop into the stream every once in a while because Jessica very much wants her to say goodnight to me like every night, which I'm completely fine with. And the chat likes seeing her. So I just want, but I don't want the chat to be like, you know, tune in 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard, whatever the hell, you know, the baby's gonna, like, I definitely don't want that. So I'd say like in terms of content creation, a lot hasn't changed, but in terms of like limiting how much I want her a part of the channel and like a part of the stream is definitely a concern of mine.
Gotcha. So, Max, now that you're a dad, I gotta ask, what's your best dad joke?
Oh man.
Can't be put on the spot like this. So here's the thing. I don't have one. You know why? Because dad jokes intrinsically become a part of your DNA and you don't plan on them. Like I was not a dad joke kind of person. And then suddenly, like I don't actually have dad jokes. They just happen by product of situation. And Jessica's like, that was a hell of a dad joke. I'm like, I'm sorry. I did not mean to. I'm very sorry. So I don't even really have one. You would have to ask Kenny for that because Kenny is king of the dad jokes and he like plans on it.
Okay, I'll tweet him. I'll tweet at him, see if I can get some out of him. So we're here. Let's stop beating around the bush, right? We're here because you started a call to free MVC2. And that call has kind of caught fire, and it's exfiltrated outside of the FGC into other communities and into other crazy things. So, what kind of when you decided to make this call, like, was this the type of response you were kind of envisioning, or if not, like, what were you thinking was going to happen when you first formulated the idea to make this kind of call?
It was definitely what I was hoping for. So, like, obviously starting a hashtag is one thing, because anybody can sort of just start a hashtag. I thought that the narrative of Marvel 2 is kind of interesting, because it's a game that is specifically bound and locked behind bars. Like, you can't buy it. And the fact that it's one of the most celebrated fighting games of all time that is unpurchasable, and if you want to actually purchase a real copy, it's going to cost you upwards of like $200 to $300. And that's like an interesting story to me. It's something that's so desired by so many people, so considered to be one of the best fighting games of all time by so many people, to be that unpurchasable. Not to mention the fact that it is a game that has such a wide competitive history. Like, I can't even think of many other fighting games that stood the test of time and actually kept a pretty dang good hardcore competitive audience like Marvel 2, unless it's like Smash Brothers Melee. Like, some fighting games get their really niche audiences, but man, dude, people that play Marvel 2 play the out of it, and they love it. And that's like the game they play. And I feel it's the same. I kind of like shares that sort of camaraderie that a Smash Brothers Melee sort of has. And I felt that since like even Street Fighter 4 era, you know? So to me, it was a situation where it's got a unique story, right? It's got like, what do they mean free Marvel 2? Is it free? Like, no, it's free it because you can't buy it. Like, it's literally unpurchasable. And a lot of people genuinely, I can tell you this from streaming and dealing with it myself, I love emulation. I love enhancing games and making them look better and play better in many ways that you can. But people generally really don't like that. People just want to buy the thing, have it be available, and just play it with friends by pressing a couple of buttons. You know what I mean? Like a ranked match, enter, go. And the fact that it doesn't have that, the fact that that's locked to the PS3 360 version that can no longer even be purchasable, is truly something. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I told my chat for like months before I started it that I wanted to like have a big Marvel focused time of the year, which is usually around fall. And I wanted to focus around Marvel 2 especially. In a similar way to hashtag bring back KI. And the execution was the same thing, where it's like, hey, how about we just let Marvel and Disney and Digital Eclipse, the guys that made the previous MVC2 HD, how about we just let these guys know how much we love Marvel 2? Tell them what you love about this thing. Encouragement of like fan art, encouragement of creativity, encouragement of stories, encouragement of how much this game might have impacted your life. And that's the sort of feedback that I think is a lot more digestible, especially on the corporate end. That is where a lot of this is going to happen. So that was the plan. And I definitely wasn't expecting it to get bigger than the hashtag Bring Back KI campaign, which was already really big. And it actually doubled, way more. It doubled the engagements after the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
And this one, I don't even know now. All I know is that the reach was upwards of 25 million after a month and a half. So it definitely got out there. And I think the best part is that there's a lot more content creation now than when Marvel 2 came out before. And a lot more people are willing to be like, yeah, I grew up with this game and I love it. And even bigger YouTubers, way bigger than myself, are able to express that.
I have a quick question just to add on to that. Steve, would you like to ask yours first?
I was just going to ask if, you knew it was, you saw it got big. Did you ever imagine that it'd be getting so big that you were seeing signs for it in front rows of wrestling shows?
That I did not. Yeah, for sure. I think that's just a huge testament to how much of an impact this game has had on people over the years, much less their memory of it, because it was truly one of like the dream come true fighting games of the late 90s, early 2000s, right? Well, the entire Versus series is essentially that, and Marvel 2 sort of peaked at that. So I think if there's one game in the Versus series that we're going to hopefully get, Marvel versus Capcom back in the forefront in some way, because I think this series genuinely has great brand visibility and recognition and a bunch of retro history that is certainly beloved, to take the game that everyone loves the most. Because I'll admit personally, MVC2 is not my favorite Marvel vs. Capcom. It's not even my second favorite Marvel vs. Capcom, but I can absolutely identify it's the one that makes people the happiest.
I did want to add one more thing before we move on. So you've seen I'm sure you've seen the photo of the sign at an AEW event, the wrestling event.
Yeah.
With the wrestling crowd kind of getting permeated, and I didn't know about this until I started talking to a friend of mine who's into wrestling. There is another content creator who goes by Matthew, who does what they call Botchamania, which is he takes either interesting parts of wrestling shows or errors in wrestling shows and just kind of like showcases them and makes like funny videos out of it. And it's permeated even that. So like even like the inner wrestling culture has started talking about it, to the point where like even like entire like segments just for for signs of video games. Like
that's a funny one right there. That one that we're looking at right now, that one I don't agree with. All right, if I just have to live react to these right now, hold on a second, I'm gonna say no. What? This is crazy. These people are nuts. What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so people need to be stopped, right? Okay.
Yeah.
My Marvel 2 sign is in here too? Oh, God, no.
Oh, wait, there's a couple.
Oh, dude. Oh, what's with the absolute obsession with Final Fantasy? I mean, I get it, right? It's Final Fantasy VII. I understand. People are very defensive. Okay, all right. Dude, okay, I think the biggest thing we could take from this video is the absolute gigantic crossover of AEW and Final Fantasy. There it is. See, that's a beautiful sign. This is the only sign that somebody went to Kinko's, right? Somebody actually got decent printout. That's the credit I got to give to this dude. This person actually contacted me on Twitter, and they had the sign that they made before they went. In fact, I saw other folks were at I think it was PAX West, something like that recently, that also had petition signs that were that had big free Marvel 2 signs that they were carrying around PAX or something like that. So yeah, people love Marvel 2. It's pretty obvious. It's like the most guaranteed way to make money with a pretty low, return of with a pretty great return of interest, Mm-hmm.
So, just really quickly, before we go ahead and change on to the next subject, I did want to ask a quick question just regarding, because Max, you've been around for a while. You've dealt with a lot of communities, and most notably, as of right now, you've worked on the #BringBackKI campaign coming out of one of your latest videos for your Good Love Killer Instinct, that entire franchise coming back from Rare to now the revamp by Microsoft. But this Bring Back MVCI, obviously, like you said, is completely blown that previous campaign out of the water. You've talked previously publicly about how as a child, like you would just chill with Iron Galaxies, just ready to watch and enjoy developers doing what they do because you love games so much. My question is basically as an extension of that, I know obviously when your family expands, you have less time to work on things. Have you in any way, shape, or form given thought to becoming a part of the game development cycle or becoming a voice actor or doing content pertaining to that now that you see the impact that you've had inside of the content creation realm?
That's a great question. And that's because I already have a bit of experience with this on Killer Instinct, as you said. Mm-hmm. So back in like 2014, 2015, I started working more than full-time on Killer Instinct trailers, which I didn't do all of them. I did like the greater majority, but I directed all of them.
Right.
I think the larger majority, there's like 2 I might not have directed.
Yeah, Keats has publicly talked about that as well in the documentary.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I actually, even back when I was making them, I had to tell people like, I'm cutting the KI trailers. Like I can't, I didn't have time to stream. So it's not like a big secret, but yeah, like at that time frame, I was pumping out 2 videos a day on YouTube at least, and trying to stream at least 4 to 5 days a week at that time, because I was still sort of young to streaming in 2014. But those streams were like anywhere between 3 to 6 hours. And then in the background, I was making the trailers for Killer Instinct characters, and also, which was the private part, which we can talk about, I was making the story mode. So we had to come up with how the story mode was going to work, which was essentially like a machinima thing because they had no budget. And we had to figure out what we were going to do with this actual time and budget. So we essentially had to mock together a story mode using in-game assets to tell the story of every single character that they had told. So I didn't write the story, but I made like all the cinematics and direction and stuff like that.
Right.
Anyway, that aged me like 5 years. Like that 1 year, literally, like I go back and I watch my streams and I go to the moment in the archives and I see like myself before that happened, and then I look at myself after. I'm like, holy shit, I aged myself 5 years doing this. So I think, and it's come up a few times where like the later seasons of KI needed like some expertise on the trailers because they didn't have a ton of people that knew how to like throw together the trailers really fast as much as I did, and they just wanted somebody I think that really cared about KI. So when we put together the Eagle trailer, which had a lot of storytelling elements about like his Native American history and stuff like that, when we had to put together a Ram trailer for E3, which was actually an E3 General ROM trailer, they needed that stuff fast, so they're like, just get Max to do it. And I was ready to go at the time, but I definitely think if it was like, we need you to make this thing, I probably would be like, okay, maybe not anymore. I don't think I would take that much of a responsibility again, but I would definitely probably do consulting. And I most likely wouldn't even mind getting charged that much to do it, just because I just would like to make the product better in any way I possibly can, just based on my feedback, if not the feedback of so many people that knew what made the previous games great. So even if there was a situation where, you know, Capcom or Marvel or Iron Galaxy or Microsoft or any of these devs that have made some of my favorite games did show up to me, I'd be absolutely willing to help, but only to a degree, and not to the degree that was like 2014 to 2015.
Yeah, understandable. Okay. Thank you so much for that answer.
No problem.
Have you seen anything about the interview that the head of Digital Eclipse did? Well, I know he's did a couple. I have info from the one they did with Game Shack.
Yeah, it's the one that's essentially making news everywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can actually pull up that first part of the clip when talking about how you, Max, mentioned Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and that blew up. He did a great video on that. I can't read my public email or my Twitter direct messages without having to sift through hundreds of free MVC2 messages from people, which is amazing. The reaction was incredible. I know that both Disney and Capcom have seen that loud and clear, and we've begun some discussions on that, and we're trying to see how far we can go. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really not up to us.
Yeah.
Parts of that are owned by two different really large entities that have a lot of reasons why they would want or not want to do something of that we're not privy to. So all we can really do is just make the best case possible and try and make it easy for them and see if they're interested. Did you ever imagine, like, a few weeks after you tweet this out, that you would actually hear about Disney's actually, you know, and Capcom are at least having feeling out talks? Yeah. Did you think it would have that sort of impact that quickly?
I didn't think that was like this direct way was what I wanted to happen, but was this what I wanted to happen? Yes. Like this was the goal, because ultimately with any of these like campaigns of just rallying support on social media, the ultimate goal, and I'll tell you my goal with this thing, the same thing with Bring Back KI, same thing with Free MVC2. The point is just to rally as many of people that loved this stuff as possible into one like siphon. Just get them to siphon down to one small like well, where suddenly there's this absolute gigantic outpouring of appreciation and love and fandom and community and FGC and everything like that, of people that just like love this thing and how much it might have impacted their lives. If you take all of that energy and you put it into one like focused area, it's like, wow, like all of a sudden like there's wow, okay, so even like Phil Spencer's paying attention now. That's the ultimate goal. Like the ultimate goal is to just get Microsoft / Capcom Marvel to be like, we could probably make some money here, right? Like that's ultimately what video games are about. Like there's an opportunity to make money, and there's an opportunity to, I think, as Mike explains in the interview, to propel the brand to actually do good things for Capcom and Marvel, if not Microsoft, through these hashtags. Then yeah, I think that they should take that. I think there's like a chance here that's relatively low risk that they could do and execute on something that would make a lot of people really happy. And especially in the current day of like content creation, with the amount of content creators that some of these games will definitely influence. We're talking about influencing the content creators at this point. Yeah, Marvel 2 is definitely one of them. So I think the big goal is to get Capcom, Marvel, and essentially the biz dev part of it was I know there's people at Capcom that want Marvel 2 to come back. I know there's people at Marvel that would love Marvel 2 to come back, but it's not up to the producers. It's up to business development. It's up to the people, the licensee holders, and all the money that it takes to get that stuff done for them to eventually dig their heels in and get stuff done. So they need to see a return of interest that is worth it for them. And my hope is that, yeah, that many voices, that many people, that much fan art, that much music, that many videos, like everybody responding to something that doesn't even exist yet, should hopefully be impactful enough for them to even talk about it. So that's like, yeah, we did it. Like this is about, I don't know if there's anything else that we could do in this situation. So I'm super happy that it, like, according to Mike, it's already like going places and they're already paying attention, which is great, because that's like, like I said, the ultimate goal, just get them to pay attention in some way that a lot of people care.
So in that same vein of like funneling all this passion into one thing, I do want to start talking. We have just like 7 minutes left. I do want to talk a little bit about the Twitch Rivals events that you helped put on. Because I think there were 3 in total, right? You had a UMVC3, a KI, and an MKX tournament. So was this also like in the same vein where you just wanted to funnel all of these great communities into this event? Or was it something where like maybe Twitch came up to you saying, hey, we have this avenue. Is there anything that you want to do with it? Like what was the whole like stuff that you could talk about?
That was essentially it, yeah, where Twitch and the likes of people that work at Twitch wanted to like work on some FGC stuff. And they were essentially giving me an outlet where I can produce it and become like the propagator, the show host. Now, if you have like any ideas of tournaments you would like to run, here's what we can do. And I immediately came up with the craziest, most bonkers, ridiculous, like, let's run a Marvel 3 tournament in 2020. And I was already aware of like the smaller community of Marvel players that have been playing online through Parsec and things like that for many years. And actually, I was actually big over the past year or so. So it really started blowing up last summer. And I just knew how passionate the Marvel community is, especially for Marvel 3. I knew that people have been waiting for a way to play that game without having complete netcode for a very long time, and Parsec was definitely offering something that was reliable to the point where, wow, the quality of play that I'm seeing in these matches is good, is really good. And I think that was something that not a lot of people out of the few hundred that were watching these streams were aware of, and things that I can like just sort of show my audience every once in a while. So I'm like, dude, let's just put these people forefront. Let's like, I want to throw a tournament that makes me feel like I'm back in 2011, 2012. And the idea behind that was I wanted to take like, in those situations, especially for even like KI or Mortal Kombat X, I want to take a back seat and sort of put the people that are at the forefront of the community in the front seat and just put them on my channel and have it be a celebration of the things that you love about the game. That's essentially my dream tournaments, right? My dream tournaments are not specifically the latest, greatest, biggest fighting game, because sometimes I'm just not as interested. It's a celebration of the game itself. It's a celebration of a game that you already know has been around for a long time, has already established its community as a super passionate community, and I'm already deeply embedded because I was there when it was all happening. So that was the big goal of all these events, even with Mortal Kombat X, because I love Mortal Kombat X, and I know a lot of people love the gameplay of the game and the characters. So it's just like, yeah, let's just put this all into one spot at one time. And most of the time, it's not me that wants to be like the commentator and the person at the front of the screen all the time. But in some situations, I know that people have an expectation, because I did do commentary for KI like 3 years at EVO, that people would want me to be a voice for Killer Instinct in some way, because that's just sort of been natural occurrence. So in that situation, yeah, I was like, I'm going to get the two commentators that I want to hear the most commentate KI. I want to get the two commentators that I want to hear commentate Marvel 3 the most, and the same thing for Mortal Kombat X. And I'll just chime in every once in a while and we'll chat.
So I have a final question that I think would be a good way to wrap all of this up, because Max, as you know, you're very well known inside of both the, I would say, OG now FGC, which is to state, you're talking about arcade era to console era to obviously now the online era. But myself, someone who joined back in like 2013 with the addition of Skullgirls, I know you as well, and I know a majority of my friends do. My question is basically thus, now that with the rise of quarantine this past year, I guess now 2 years ago or so, back in 2020, we saw a change in the fighting game community. We saw a lot of players being replaced by content creators and influencers and people that generally create and tell stories more. That was something that you talked about a lot. And previously, when you were incredibly active inside of the fighting game community, which is, say, actively competing and creating things such as your Marvel sketches, Assist Me. You had a lot of feedback from people who were saying, well, he doesn't play the game enough, he doesn't place high enough, but you were still creating. Now you're watching all these people, all these other creators making things, and you kind of like paved a way for that. Do you have any words of advice, or do you have anything to say about that change between players and content creators?
I think and you're absolutely right. Yeah, if the pandemic did do one good thing for the fighting game community outside of the terrible thing, which is essentially like trying to destroy it, by ruining events and live tournaments and stuff like that, was the fact that it definitely had an impact on people requesting decent online and decent net play in their games, and the fact that the people that are usually the top placers that essentially you see only at tournament most of the time, and then placing well at tournament and interviews every once in a while, they had to become content creators. They had to like buckle down and suddenly focus on making content. The person I use as an example all the time is Justin Wong, because Justin notoriously hated online tournaments, just absolutely despised them, refused to play fighting games online for the most part for like a very long time. And then what happens when he becomes a content creator? All of a sudden he needs things to do. And now he's like on the road to winning 100 online tournaments this year. So he clearly saw something that needed to be changed and then made the adjustment. And I think that's a big element the fighting game community has never really had to do. They've sort of been just stuck in being players and going to events and traveling and everything like that. And then that's it. So to me, back in 2011, 2012, when I first got my big break with like Marvel 3 after making videos for already 4 years, I noticed that. Since I'm the one that's editing and doing all this stuff, there's only going to be one way forward here. And I can only put so much work into making live action sketches and shows that take like 80 to 100 hours to edit. So I'm like, man, I can't just be one fighting game guy. Like I really can't. And the good thing is I really liked Capcom fighting games, but I wanted to sort of expand the horizon. And right around that time in 2012, early 2012, more fighting games were coming out like Soul Calibur 5, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. And then soon after that, like Injustice 1, which was a wonderful foray into the NRS scene that I was really unfamiliar with. And I really liked Injustice. So I think for me, it was a moment of like that moment of realization that I think a lot of the FGC might have had in this year or the past year or so from the pandemic, was something I quickly realized, that you can't ride one game for like the rest of your life. This isn't Minecraft or Fortnite, you'll have to eventually spread out and diversify yourself a little bit, or you can hunker down and focus on doing the one thing that, you're pretty good at and just do the one thing. And to me, that definitely wasn't the answer when it came to making this like a profession, when it came to like making content creation a thing in the early 2010s. I quickly realized that, okay, I need to figure out how we can do this and do this without sacrificing my soul, like suddenly I'm like a League of Legends streamer or something like that. I did not want to do that. So I wanted to encourage my love for fighting games by still going with that. And also expand on other things like video games, where I can actually play things that aren't fighting games and I'm just losing my mind playing nothing but online fighting games at the time. And also enjoy some single player playthroughs with friends of retro games and modern games and stuff like that. So that's kind of how video games started. But yeah, like I completely agree with you that a lot of the FGC was sort of forced into like a corner in this situation where everyone had to become a content creator. And I think it's genuinely great. Like it doesn't mean my competition is 10 to 15 to 20 to 100 times greater than it ever was? Absolutely. But it means that more people are aware and playing fighting games than ever before, and that's the goal. Like, the whole point is just to get more people to play fighting games. And if I can get other people to like watch other channels, like for example, Melty Blood, you know what? I'm not super excited about Melty Blood just in general, but a lot of these other content creators are, and you should go support them.
Yep. So
like
rising tide
like
raises all ships, huh?
He's talking about me, chat.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
So it is, unfortunately, our time is up. I did want to talk more about Assist Me and other things, but maybe we'll just have to have you on in the future again sometime soon.
Sure. Sounds good.
Cool. So Max, thank you so much for joining us. You can follow him at Maximilian _ on Twitter, and you can see him at what's the YouTube? It's Miles8 something.
It's actually Miles923 or just YouTube
923.
Maximilian Dood. Maximilian Dood.
And he streams on Twitch. He does everything. Max, super appreciate your time. Big thank you. Big thank you for bringing the dudes to us and hanging out with us for a little bit. Super appreciate it.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
Big thanks.
Thank you.